will be glorified. Here we are now in the darkness within. Here we are now as our soul song sings. Here we go on this path of ascension. Here we dive to a place that's hard to mention. I feel the good spark, the calling of your soul.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for this live
So she's frozen a bit longer than I had anticipated. Thank you for joining us for this live news. We'll just wait till Diana gets back because it's frozen right as she was doing her introduction, annoyingly. But we've got a good show for you today. We've got some clips all lined up. We're going to discuss the local news and the news at large and put our kind of thoughts out there, see what's going on. Once she returns.
and I'm
Back again.
apparently still here. Yeah, no, I had to switch to the phone internet. Want to see why? Look at this. Look how bright the sun is today.
That's amazing.
The dish, because we use an internet dish, doesn't work very well when the sun's out. Well, it is out today. That doesn't happen.
Well, we'll take it as a good omen. The sun's always good.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like I feel good today, but like the energies are a lot, right? And these things come in, and this is why like people like when we know like you and I took a moment to center because things can be going good, but then all of a sudden because it's high energy, if something bad happens, you have to watch yourself because that happy train can immediately become like a manic freaked out train if you don't know better, right? Like when you're early awakening, that's why early awakening ends up putting you in so many dark nights of the soul because you're like forced into dealing with these energies as you start to go faster. It's energetic, but it's what do you experience with this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree to a large degree with that. I think the Dark Night of the Soul, it's more like a baseline, isn't it? When you're in that, I think that's the thing. You're forced to kind of purge and look at all the sugar within you.
Yeah.
And try not to swear in the middle of the day. Yeah. So I think you're very it's the mindfulness, isn't it? We talk about mindfulness and presence and the power of now and all that kind of good stuff because that's what we're creating from, aren't we? And I think it's being able to recognize the thought loops and the plays and the mind stories and go, oh my gosh, this is what's coming in. And it isn't even like it's false positivity because it's not saying those emotions don't deserve to be recognized. It's saying how am I going to make them serve me? Because that's the point of alchemy, isn't it? It's saying, this is the emotion that's arising within me. This is what it's showing me within myself. How am I going to deal with it now? Can I master my emotions and recognize them and feel them, but not attach to them? Let them come through, let them show me what I need to transmute and not let it ruin my life or my day or whatever moment that I'm in. I mean, it's not always that easy, is it? But, you know, that's the thing, isn't it? Presence.
Exactly. And for me, the speed has been such a thing because for me, like I can be when I'm in my normal self, very hyper, very fast moving, but usually because of other issues like empathness, I can also go very slow. But when I'm going very fast, because it actually feels like for once I'm in my natural state, for once I feel like myself, which is like a couple days a month, you know? And it feels great. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depends on the season of the year, right? Literally what season we're going through. And I used to be told all the time, slow down, slow down, slow down. And I'm like, I would get really triggered and offended because I'm like, this is the only time I'm happy. This is the only time I have energy to get everything I need done. And you want me to slow this down? This is when you should love me. This is the true me. And they would be like, oh, well, you should be like, you know, I'm like, and they named traits of me that were like from depressed me, from empath me. And it's like, that's not actually me. That's my trappings. Like, but that was me disrespecting slow Diana. So the part that was the majority of me, I'd actually separate it out of and just be like, this is the wounded Diana that can't move, where the truth was. Because that fast train would always end up manically crashing out. She would end up snapping out by the end of it and like get rid of all that good energy, because if you're not watching, you could crash that train. If you're driving 200 miles an hour, even if it's amazing, one little something goes wrong and you have smashed and dead, you know, and that's how it would be for the happy energy. And it would just be gone. Where now I've learned, it's funny, like you saw, like, let's take a minute. Like now I've learned if I'm, especially the first thing that starts to slightly go wrong, instead of letting that enter any mind story, that's when I take that old advice and start to slow down. And then I realized the two Dianas can work together and they are all me. It's just I liked one more than the other.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, isn't it, as well? I really like what you said about, you know, empath Diana, sad Diana, happy Diana. And really what these are just expressions of the same Diana. So that I really like what you said when you were like, no, I was disrespecting that Diana. It's even like you're disrespecting it. It's just seeing them as separate parts of you when you're a whole person. It's just another expression of Diana, you know. It isn't even like this is just me when I should be like that. And I think that's another thing as well. We're told we should be happy or we should be this, but really when we're chasing happiness, we're just chasing an emotion. We're not being in the now anyway. We're chasing a state of being. And when you realize that everything is transient, which obviously you do, we learn to just ride the wave because it's great. The sadness is great. I mean, I know me and you've been talking recently, haven't we? I've had a few rough up and down moments. Yesterday was a really, really hard, energetically challenging day, we'll say, for me. I was doing a lot of purging. I did realize there was a big solar storm, which obviously didn't help because that does destabilize your your basically your biological magnetic field. That's why people can have a lot of like heart attacks and problems like that when there's a big storm or solar activity going on. So it does destabilize you, but it also does is it moves the energy through you. So if you're on the path of progression and you're actively working to kind of better yourself and know yourself and release the stuff in you're doing the inner alchemy, because that's what it is. It's just transmutation, isn't it? You see the pain, you see the sadness, you see the parts of yourself that are coming up to be looked at as like really good, because it is good, it's positive, you know, it's all perception and perspective. So if you're looking at yourself and saying, hey, do you know what I mean, I'm going to honor this part of me today, I need to go slow, I need to have some self-care, I need to drink lots of nice tea, I need to just, you know, be quiet, then that's absolutely fine. But I see the frustration then, because obviously like you, I have had chronic fatigue, I've got the ADHD, so I'm like 1 minute I'm like, wow, great, like I've been like that today. I've been in Sam's happy train today because I did loads of purging yesterday. I've put the music on, I've been dancing around the kitchen, and it feels like you said, that is my natural state. But really, that's just the state I like.
Preferred, yeah, the preferred.
Yeah, it's the comfortable one, isn't it? Go on, sorry.
No, I was just saying it's the preferred.
Yeah, it's comfortable, it's nice. We've got the endorphins, we've got the dopamine, we've got the get up and go, got the drive, and it's just, I was having a chat with somebody next today about this. It's the integration periods, and I think I talk about this all the time. It's probably a bit boring for people to listen to, but we're on this path of progression, we're on ascension, as you say, transcending ascension. This is where we're all going, and it's about lifting those energies up. It's about releasing the stuff that's dense, and that's part of the process. That's part that we have to honor. So it's just finding a balance in between the purging, because I think we can get also, which I do want to touch on, get into these traps of like healing, like these healing traps, like, oh, we've got to be healing, but you're just healing naturally. It's not about, oh, I've got to feel like this, I've got to be sad, I've got to wallow in the emotions. You know, if you really need to do it, that's absolutely fine, I know that. But you don't constantly have to be pushing into like negative spaces. It will just come up when it's meant to be looked at, basically, you know. Because I see a lot of people going, oh, I've been doing all this healing and I feel so sad and I'm going to do some more. And it's like, look, enjoy the days when you're quiet, enjoy the time when you're just chill, because that's the integration, and that's when we are sitting with the, I'm going to call it the transitional phase of who we are. It's allowing the new parts to integrate and getting to know those new parts, getting to know the body with the bits that have gone, feeling the space that's been left behind. Because when you ever do any healing and releasing, it isn't like they're dying. You're just letting the bits go that you've honored, you've let them go, and you've got all this space within you to fill, and it's great. It's like a real creative point of potential.
And and the good point there is sometimes, especially when you're awakening, you can think it's sadness, especially if you like feel into it, because you really learn the nuances of emotions. It's a spectrum. That's why I love the term spectrum, because there's a spectrum of it all. And so we can feel somewhat like a sadness, but it's going to actually feel more like empty and more like, what am I doing with my life? What's the future for? These kinds of things. That's actually not an existential crisis. That's actually a beautiful gift. You have tons of open space. You have made so much space, but we don't like space. Humans don't like space. We like to fill stuff up, right? Like we like to pack stuff in there, and that's okay too. But once you realize, okay, I found space, then we can use just like our intellect and be like, okay, what do I want for that space? And I know I'm noticing a big trend with the entire world, and that's self-improvement. Like you have to be careful even, because like I was listening to this thing and I get it. Like you don't want to go full secret, right? You don't want to go full secret. But I had this free trial on an app because I love me apps, but it's got all these positive people. Anyways, the girl's going on about making money. And at first I'm like vibing and I'm into it. And then she starts talking about how like she was doing affirmations, but those were garbage. And she's like, don't do those. They're a waste of your time. And I'm like, okay. Cause like they can be if you don't match actions, but when you match actions to the affirmations, that's perfect. And then she just goes into this full speech, which I listened to because at the beginning I was respecting what she was saying. It sounded ascension-y. It sounded ascension. It sounded all about self-improvement, bettering the self, healing your trauma, being a better person, being more productive. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's all ascension, right? But then it got into money and it kept being about money. And then I realized, oh shit, this whole talk's about money. And she's talking about being a dog and working 24 hours a day and doing the grind. And it's like, it made me aware because she's the first female I've seen do it. I've seen lots of males do it. There's that whole, they're getting a piece of the puzzle. And it's like they're ascending those first three chakras, which we know humans love the first three chakras. And that's great that those are ascending. And maybe that's honestly, and then that's where we get in, like, is that all they're going to do? Are they just going to self-improve? Where like ascension, self-improvement, to me, what my show is geared towards, anything I ever say, my entire life is geared towards it, is why. And that's like ascension of the soul, body, mind, and soul, like the whole package. And you see just like a whole different experience come out of that. So like Sam, I know you feel emotions really easily, really well. You know what they are. You're really attuned to them. You feel sad a lot more than I do. And I think that's because you're so good at it. And I think you just might be more of a natural feminine. Like that just actually might be, from what I've heard, the more natural feminine. You're just, my first experience was seeing that back and honoring it, because I would have had it in my past, but back in the day I would have been like, you're sad? Okay. Like, what's that? Because I just didn't do that. But I'm not saying I was healthy at all. And I still have that big gap. So when I was going through dark nights of the souls and things like that, I was in excruciating pain. Like when I get upset, I get like sick. I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. What is this? Like I can't, and it's just like, it's a mess. Versus other times where I would go into straight apathy and I'd just be apathy for years, months. Even when I was positively awakening, if I was in those lower states, it's apathy. Even to this, actually not to this day. To this day, I will see it coming, but I know better. And that's what I did. Like after my mom passed in 2023 or 4. Well, time's so weird.
It really is weird. Yeah, she's just frozen. Time is weird. Right. Well, is it there when she comes back? It is a strange kind of time at the moment. I have noticed that actually. Go on, so you got time is weird.
Yeah, time is weird. And then so I knew I had to deal with her death. I'm not stupid. Like I was already very well versed in positive awakening. I was already teaching spirituality. Like I knew what was actually there versus what I was feeling was not matching, because I was going into like a trauma state of, when people go into shock and they just refuse, they can get manic and refuse to accept it's even happened. So I'm not surprised. That's my coping mechanism, like I was saying from the get-go. So no surprise it happened there. So what I did was for almost pretty much a year, not every night, I would take weeks at a time. Sometimes just a couple days, it depends on the experience, but psilocybin. And I would use that. It would make me, it would bring up all the things I was upset about and tell me like I couldn't see when I wasn't. And then I would have to go through that dark night of the soul, like either the next day or for weeks. It would depend on what I dug up. So what you were saying earlier about I'm finally at that point about those people, how they'll just be like, oh, I'm sad. And it's like, it depends how they got there, why they got there. And most people, I would agree, are just like, come on, you know what I mean? Because people love to be the victim. But then there's those that like choose to find the wound, rip it open, and actually are in like that agony. But I will tell you, and this is how you know the difference. If you ripped off the Band-Aid on a certain agony, it's going to have a time limit. It has to have a time limit. In fact, you should learn to weigh the feeling inside yourself and almost give yourself a time limit, because we all have that victim archetype, and you want to make sure it never takes the dominant position when you're any kind of a healing. You never, ever, ever, I don't think there's a reason to ever let the victim be the lead archetype. I mean, you can argue with me on that point, but when it comes to the dark night of the soul and healing, you want to give it a time limit so you don't let it take over. Because I think we're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot more people going nuts because of this, because of this. It's going to keep, what's that do? It's going to cook the darkness out of you, and you either let it out willingly. So through all the ascension work, shadow healing, all the things that we teach about, talk about endlessly, because I know how excruciating it is. But you can go through that willingly, or you can choose to ignore it. And that will be the difference on how you make it through this situation. Like,
absolutely. There's a few things I want to touch on there. So the first thing, like the whole ascension, I really like what you said, is boiling out of us, because it really is. It's which is interesting, because me and Nick had a little bit of a chat earlier on the X about the boiling point. And that is the thing. At the moment, you can't always choose how you're going to react, because emotions are volatile. The human psyche is volatile. What you've been through, trauma, yada, 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 it all is a big stew pot. And this is kind of what you're saying. But the difference is, are you aware of it, or are you sleepwalking through it? And that is the choice point. And as you become more aware and more conscious, you start, like you said, you start to recognize the signs. You see things coming, and you can put in preemptive strategies so that it doesn't wreck your life, essentially. Now, I'll be honest, we've all fallen into victim mentality. Some days I'll be like, do you know what? And I don't do it very often, but when I'm having a really bad day, I'll be like, do you know what? I'm gonna have a pour me hour. I'm gonna sit on the sofa. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna go, oh my God, why me? But I give myself an hour-ish, and then I'm like, man, that's enough now. I'm done with that. But I know what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying it, because sometimes I enjoy just being sad. It's all part of the experience, isn't it? Let it all out. But going back to the sun thing, and the biofield and all the rest of it, we are starting to see. I mean, we've been starting to see it for a while. Hi, Jason. We've been starting to see this overflow of people's, I'm going to call it insanity, because that's what it is. People are just losing their mind. So many people talk about how this is expressed. And one of the big ways I can always tell is when there's been a bit of a collective shift is when I'm on the road. Because people, they're in their cars, they're in their bubbles, they're driving along, and it's like a metal container for their own emotions. And it's almost like it's a magnification glass. So you know yourself, when you're in your own little head bubble, this is what the car is. It's like an extension of you, isn't it? Somebody cuts you up, like, F you, blah, blah, blah. I've got terrible potty mouth, I'll be honest, I'm driving. But you see how people's behaviour is erratic. They're not thinking properly. They're in their kind of own linear mind space. They're not looking out. They've got the blinkers on. And they start to drive very erratically. They might go really slow. And like, I'm not saying that you can't drive carefully, because I'm not saying you need to go and drive. My driving instructor used to say, Sam, it's a speed limit, not a speed target. Basically, what kind of driver I am. So yeah, they might just drive ridiculous, like really slow in a certain speed limit. They might cut people up. They might not be aware of what they're doing. They're just oblivious. I once went out and somebody was driving the wrong way down a dual carriageway, and I was just like, saw him coming. I was like, I'm just going to pull over here and let you do what you're doing. But it was one of those days. I've been cut up by lorries, all sorts of stuff. But that's one of the litmus tests that I use in my own personal sphere to kind of gauge what's going on with the collective. And there's lots of other things you can do. So if you go out to the supermarket, for instance, you'll normally see people when we're having a bit of a high intensity solar activity day. People will be grumpy. They'll be arguing. They'll be losing their mind over ridiculous stuff. You'll go on social media, people will just be like completely losing their shit, basically, acting really erratically, not in their normal right mind. And it's a form of it's like a mini psychosis almost. But the more asleep somebody is, the more they kind of express this. Anyway, I'm waffling on now. So go.
No, please do. I'm like literally just like into it. Please keep going.
No, that was it, really. Yeah, that was my point.
Beautiful. And you know what? Because earlier today, Sam told me about parts works, and she's like, "Do you know about this?" She's like, "I just feel called to tell you." Yeah. And then just today, like just coming on, and like we naturally ended up that was like an accident. Like we're talking about things that work very well for this. But before I found us a clip when you were at the beginning with Teal Swan, because I like her. I don't know, people say stuff about her, but I like the way she says stuff anyways. So I'm gonna
I
play
like her.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you do too. That's I was like liking her secretly. But I like what you said with the driver instructor. Sam, it's a speed not target. And because I feel like that felt like just Ascension as well. As soon as I hear in the Ascension weather news, basically, like when you hear the astrological incomings and you can know what you can bet, like this, like hello, like the solar energy that's coming, everything that's available to us, I take that as like my new target. I'm like, oh, so you're saying I can get all of this ascensioniness done. And like versus if I hear like the next week, oh, it's slow, blah, blah, blah. I like won't push as hard. So it's funny. Like if I hear the energies are going to be primed for it, like that's my target. I'm going to aim to go that fast, because whatever inch you can get with more ease, because I'm all about the more ease. I know this is excruciating. So fitting in the easier parts, that was an accident, is the best way you can do. So right now I'm going to throw us on a clip. I haven't vetted it because this is just inspired situation. I had other clips to play, but trust me, they were more boring. So this will be good. And Teal Swan's always entertaining.
Excellent.
Yeah, she can give us a rundown on parts work, and then we can dive into that topic, because I've always said I'm a they, and I don't mean it in the woke way. I actually mean it in once you get to know your archetypes and your many parts, you want to unify and be a single one, just like the whole world. But you also want to honor the theys and the many pieces within you. And that is not woke. Trust me, when you understand, that's just science.
Good science.
Yeah, science one day. I know it's called woo-woo magic today, but trust me, all the things of science today were called woo-woo magic once upon a time, like germs and atoms were woo-woo once upon a time. So, I might be biting off but I'm pretty sure it's going to be science one day. Okay. Share screen. There we go.
I do parts work a lot. That's my favorite one, actually, for self-love. In parts work, we're allowing our entire body to essentially become possessed by only one aspect of our being. So I may have an aspect of me that's totally sensitive and that walks into a crowded room and is totally overwhelmed and whatever. I may, to the opposite, have an aspect of self that is capable of taking over the room and speaking to a large audience. When we're doing parts work, we are letting our own psyche go only into that box that is fill in the blank, let's say in this case sensitive, and I'm going to dive as deep as I can into only that perspective as if I was a separate self. It's like the most extreme form of method acting, but a person can do this themselves. There's been a lot of therapists throughout history that have had different techniques for doing this, like Gestalt. You've got voice dialogue that practices this. Even when Freud was using puppets and things like that, he was helping people to get into a subconscious aspect of self. So there's lots of different methodologies. I obviously have my own methodology for parts work, but I think this is one of the best ways that you can develop this deep intimacy with and find a way to get along with these aspects of self. I do parts work a lot. That's my favorite one, actually, for self-love. In parts work, we're allowing our entire body to essentially...
Yeah, that was really good. And she said it's her methodology, so maybe I should find another clip where it's coming from. But I like her tweaks on stuff. She's one of those people that can just tweak a sentiment we already know, but then now we know it much deeper and better. You know what I mean? Like, do we switch sides? I'm thrown off now.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I know what you mean. She's got this kind of energy, hasn't she, behind her? That's what I just first researched about, because I do like Teal Swan. Some of the stuff I don't always agree with, but that's just a litmus test for discernment, isn't it? Because we're always going to have things that we
Org, right?
kind of
Yeah.
gel with, and then we go back sometimes to people and go, oh yeah, maybe I gel with that now. Maybe I've done a bit more healing, or maybe I've released a bit of a judgment or whatever, and now I gel with that a bit more. I can see it from a different perspective, and maybe I don't fully embrace it, but I can see where they're coming from. But the parts thing, definitely. I mean, I'm not particularly au fait with the, I think it's called IF, or what is it called?
Yeah, IFS, I think it was.
Yeah. I called it I call it family parts or something. I got the wrong thing, but whatever. But I love what you were saying about that, and it's really funny because I was actually, when I was driving today, I was thinking about like the social aspects of energy. So some days I can be really low energy because I think that's just part and parcel of being, like you said, an empath and reading the energetic waves and being just a sensitive, basically. We can get overloaded. Sometimes our nervous systems need a bit of TLC or whatever. But if somebody said to me, Sam, there's a party tonight, are you going to come out? And I'd be like, oh, I'm a bit tired. But I'll just be like, do I want to go? Is it going to serve me? What's the purpose of this? I feel like I could go. And I go and I could just like switch it on. I don't know whether this is like a Libra thing, but yeah, there's like Libra Sam, where I'm like, hey, I'm here, let's go. And it's genuinely like I step into a different part of myself. And it isn't like I'm faking it, because it is me. And I am, just circulate the room, making some jokes. I have a really good banter, but there's other times when I go and I just can't find it. I just can't find that bit of me. She just doesn't want to come out. I mean, I'm normally good. I can normally switch it on quite well. But I mean, I've used this analogy before as well. There was a thing with Marilyn Monroe, and somebody was saying they were just having a chat with her in New York. They were walking down New York Street, and she was just normal Marilyn Monroe. And then she went, do you want me to turn it on? And they were like, yeah, go on then. And she just did the thing, and it was like she just switched, and then all these people could see her. They were all like taking a picture, and it's almost like she was pulling the goddess energy into her, or some sort of like higher element, and then she was radiating it out. So I do think there's lots of different things you can do, and I love what you were saying about being a they, and this ties really nicely into that, because not only do we have different internal bits within us that make up the whole, we've also got streams of different energies and entities and affiliations of, our soul family, our star family. They're all working through us, and and even the other elements. I know we talked to Donald, don't we? And he has like interdimensional link ups with these other aspects.
And so does Nick.
Yeah, Nick as well. Yeah. So they all kind of link in. So we can learn to consciously stream that. But I think that is coming through anyway, just on a more nuanced level, maybe.
Yeah, and I think because girls are naturally the feminine, the female, so it's that feminine energy. So even if men are doing it, it's still coming from that place, but it depends, and you can see the difference. And I think on your more feminine nature, the streams come through more clearly. They come through more naturally, like more through just like us. We're men, I think it's hitting them. No, we agree. I agree, Nick. None of you were not. Well, you're just as much schizophrenic as the rest of us. So
I do like that comment there. I'm not schizophrenic. I'm just well connected. I think I might get that in a mug.
and well connected is a good point, because those that end up getting diagnosed with schizophrenia, any one of us would get diagnosed with it. But those that usually get caught and diagnosed with it are because they are not taking in the incoming streams well, and then because they're in such a negative state, they're getting negative incoming streams. So we take that word entity that you used earlier, and usually it's seen as a bad thing, and often if we're just starting out in a spiritual awakening, it is a bad thing because we're probably loaded with negative ones. But as we eliminate the parasites of our body and eliminate the parasites of our mind, we start to shift into that being positive entities to stream, positive beings to stream. And I find for women, it just naturally comes through as just as intuition. That's not to say better or worse, because it comes through men clearer. It comes to us more naturally, and it's off the cuff. And was it a channel? Was it just me? Where men have like this clear cut, no, I'm talking to this guy, you know, and you just see that, like, our main channeler in the world is Bashar, and before him, Edgar Casey. And then we did have Seth, which was amazing, but Seth himself was male. And then Jane Roberts, I love her. She's not a normal woman. So her getting such a clear channel makes sense. She was a spitfire. I loved her. She had like, she's a spirit animal or human. But like, this is so important for us to understand that we are many, many parts, and that getting to know them all, and then realizing that we can connect to other ones like Marilyn and the Goddess. And that's why I like Blake Lively. And people say shade about her, and I'm sure she is shade to a point, but she's getting that goddess. Like, she has that goddess vibe. If you think about it, like, yes, she's beautiful, but she's huge. She's enormous. And usually I had a best friend that had that, where she was just big and blonde, but she could have chose to be beautiful. There's nothing wrong. You're big and you're still blonde. Like, and Blake Lively does that. Like, she's a bigger girl, but she shows women like, no, you're beautiful anyways. Just like, make sure your hair is nice. Like, like, she's stunning. And she's not the only one. Like, it's not her looks too. It is the embodiment. When I say stunning, I mean, it's because that whole package she just brings with her. She's walking around as something. And then her partner, Ryan Reynolds, is also walking around with his own version of like the funny, like, trickster god, but like in a funny way, in a heart-centered, hopefully, you know, it's hashtag, it's all of them. I hope not. But, you know, you can just see, especially with a lot of the stars, you can get into the fact that they astrologically find them and pick them out because they know they have the chance of being a higher god self easier because of their astrological placements. But that's a whole other topic. I do have another video that's supposed to be more direct on exactly what IFS is, but I want to know your thoughts, Sam.
There was so much in that, yeah. My ADHD was like, oh, I'm going to say this, no, I'm not. I was going to say this, no, I'm not. I mean, just going back to what you were saying about Blake Lively and the sort of women, as a larger lady, I don't fit the stereotypical, you know, attractive, like box ticking exercise. But the thing is, it's a skin that society tells us you've got to look this certain way, and you see all these like Kardashian clones, and you look at them
either, though.
And they're like, I mean, I'm not saying if that's what they want to do, it's what they do. It's just part of their own individuation process. But they're not really embodying who they are. They're trying to emulate something else. And whenever you emulate something else and you don't fully, because you can take bits from other people and you can make it your own, to quote Louis Walsh in The X Factor, which I love, you know, not The X Factor, but Louis Walsh, she was so funny. He used to go, I'm making your own. But anyway, you take different bits from other people and you go, oh, I really like how they've done that, or I really like that aspect of them. I'm going to see if I can embody that and give it my own flavour. But when you're literally just copying people to fit into a mould, you lose all your individuality, and that's what's really sexy. That's what's really like, it makes you who you are. It's your magnetism. And going into like the tantra thing, because I know we've been having a bit of a chat about that, haven't we? When you are fully embodied, when you feel your energy, when you feel comfortable in your own body, when you know your worth and who you are, you automatically just become magnetic. You know, you don't have to be thin. You don't have to look a certain way to be attractive or sexy or anything really. Your worth isn't it isn't performative. Your value isn't based on what you can give to other people or how they perceive you, basically. And when you start to realize that your value is based on your own inner self-worth and you attribute it to yourself, you become magnetic. You have this aura about you. And that goes back into your friend who was tall. I had a friend like that as well. And she was beautiful. She was absolutely beautiful. She was no 6 foot tall. She got an hourglass figure. She got blonde hair. She was so insecure. And she'd be like, oh, Sam, I want to be like you. And I was like, why? I'm 5'4" and I've got massive curly hair. And she's like, yeah, but you're just so happy and you put really pretty makeup on and blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, this is just me. This is just who I am. So it's that process of being comfortable in your own skin, isn't it? I'm not saying that not everybody, we all have different attributes, and some people are more like outgoing and vivacious just as a person. We've all got things that are nice, and we all look for other people that have got certain attributes because we try to complement bits within ourselves with the people, don't we? That's a different conversation though. But yeah, going back onto that, completely agree. I was waffling. I've got full ADHD day today, so I do apologise, everybody. Oh, she's frozen. She's frozen. Oh, Nick, we may have to tune into the energy to channel that feeling. Yeah. Go on, Diana. Sorry.
No, that was good. You were doing a good thing. And then
I was waffling. Go on.
I blacked out. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, my friend used to say the same thing to me. She used to wish she was me, and I'm like, why? And I'm like, I had mousy. Like I was like, why? I was like, you could be, you are like, you just have to. Because she'd walk really hunched over. So she gave. I'd be like, yeah, because she was 6 feet tall. She was at least 6 feet tall. And she tried to say she's 5'11", and I'm like, she's 6 feet tall. But I would brag about it. Like I was always bragging about her. I thought she was amazing, and she's the one that I told you about that was a professional singer. Like not actually, she didn't pursue it because she didn't have the confidence, but she was professional level singer. So it's just, and it must be that like Nordic ancestral blood and like the magic that would be in that, like to be that tall. And it's funny, they're always blonde. Like there's 3 people and they're all blonde. By looking, yeah, I don't know who Rick Berwick is. Do I? Proves where I'm the worst with names though. And then I see him like, oh yeah, I know. Like parts work. You're like, do you know parts work? Like, tell me a little bit about. Oh, like yeah, I know that.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's true. It's owning yourself, isn't it? Like the thing is, people naturally. There's people that are leaders and there's people that are followers, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. It's just psychology. The people that aren't, you know, that don't want to step out are going to always follow. So if you own your quirks and you own who you are, people are just going to be like, she's got confidence. She knows what she's talking about. All the time, every job I've ever had, I've walked in and they've just left me to it. And I'm like, are you going to tell me what I'm doing? Like, well, you seem so confident. I was like, yeah, but never fucking worked here before. Are you going to show me what to do? Oh, seriously, every single job, they just lead me to it. And I'm like, no, this isn't going to fly. You know, he's the quadriplegic.
Oh, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah. I might need to go and look into him. I'm not very up on comedians.
I was just hearing about him in that same thing I was talking about earlier, the motivational thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the point basically. Own it, shine your light out, and people are going to be like, yeah, well, what she's got, she knows what she's on about, or you know, that's the beauty thing. They could be something that's really confident, and they could put like little pink stars all over the faces, and it could be the next trend just because they're like, this is great, I'm owning it, this is what I'm going to do, and they're like, yeah, I want to do that. It's fucking bonkers, you know.
It is, because it's that energy. It's that energy. And I've had that energy. Like I think I told you the story about the day my mom bought me, oh my God, funny thing. She bought me this wonderful outfit. She didn't buy me stuff. And she bought me this thing and I wanted to wear it and I actually loved it. So it was like so perfect, but it's heartbreaking because I did this to myself. I like bullied myself out of it. But I went to the school in this green dragon skirt shirt combo thing and it matched. And that's where I felt like I went wrong.
Because they were
matching. But I'm
not covered.
Yeah, like no one said anything bad, but no one said anything good yet either. And it's not like I wanted them to, but I was like, oh God, they're not saying anything because it's awful. It's awful because it was a showstopper, right? So it's like, I don't know. But then anyways, I called my mom and had her pick me up and I went home sick and I never wore it again because I talked myself out of it, but I made myself small. And that energy, and like, think about how it feels to feel like, even remembering that memory. And I was like 15, 16, or 14, even at any point in high school early. I felt sick. I felt nervous. I felt, you know, and you start to learn how that feels. And what does that do to other people? And this is why I have a hard time. This is why I stopped really taking on clients unless someone begs. I don't know. But because their energy, it's like, I don't know if I'm that person, and that's okay. I do want to help people, but this way there's like an energy separation. Even when I'm stopping doing open podcasts, which is anybody, I'm keeping the people I already know is safe, because when people have that off energy, everybody feels it. You know what I mean? And empaths are going to feel it more, but everybody's going to feel it. They're going to feel your ick versus the opposite. If you're wearing the most ridiculous of thing, but walking around confidently and actually embodying and feeling that, they're also going to feel that. And you're going to help others feel safe and confident, because no one has that naturally in them, because we've all been brainwashed out of it. Like, all of us, even if we have astrological things to help it, we've all been brainwashed to feel small and like we're nothing. And that's just, every which way we can think of to get out of that, because our divine self and our soul self naturally wants to rock it. It doesn't have a confidence issue. It's getting past the body and the mind, and really just the mind, because I don't even know if the body overly cares how it looks. So really it's more just a mind issue. The body wants to be healthy. So you could add that point. The body does want to be healthy, but when it comes to the thought processes, that's all in the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's energy dynamics, top and bottom of it, because everything's energy. And I know we say that and we can reduce it down to nothing. But when you walk into a room, and I've said this before, you can feel if there's that person with the poor energy, and it's having an energy field that's more cohesive and big enough to go, come up to meet me. And they'll either come up to meet you or they'll fuck off because they don't like it. And you've got to find that natural equilibrium. You will have a slight drop if you're in a really negative kind of environment, but it's learning, because I mean, this is what I'm doing now. we all go through it. The more sensitive you get, the more you feel the people's energy. So you need to be even more robust in your own field, so people aren't like permeating and coming into your own field to take your energy, basically. Because still feel great around you. You know, this is the thing with energy about vampires. Like, oh, Diana's beautiful. Look at this. You're great, Diana. Come and hang out with me. And then you go and you're like, oh my god. The same with, I've got people in my life that do that to me. They're like, hey Sam, and I'm like, I give them like a 40-minute max. I'm like, right, you've got 40 minutes. I know it sounds horrible. I'm like, oh, it's time to go now. And I can feel it start to go. I mean, you know what I mean? But if you spend an extended period of time with those people, it will drain you, it will deplete you. But I did read this thing online and it really made sense. It was this guy, and he could naturally feel energy. He was aware of it when he was younger, and he started to watch how people acted. And he was playing around with it. And he got to the point where he could go into a room and work the energy. And this is what really charismatic people do. They do it a lot of the time unconsciously. But you can feel into the energy and you project your energy out, and you can do certain things. It's like power dynamic plays. So he was actually talking about doing it with women, which I didn't really agree with. But anyway, so he would like say something to a woman, and then he would pull his energy back, and then he'd say something to another woman, and they would automatically go, oh, we're in competition for this man, even though like they might not even liked him. And it's the same sort of thing with men, you know. Obviously, unless you're going somewhere and there's Tom Cruise or somebody in the room, then obviously that's just ridiculous. It's not going to work. But we're saying if you go into a room and you project your energy out and you do these certain things, you will command the room, and that's what it's all about with energy. And if you are a confident, charismatic person, you can go into a room and go, hey, I'm here. So I went to my first pottery class, not last Thursday, the Thursday before. And obviously, because it's me, I don't really give a fuck. I walked in and I was like, hey, everybody, how are we all doing? I was like, who's ready to do some pottery? I'm like, who's got a leaf? Because I had brought one. And they were like, I've got a leaf. I was like, do you want a tea towel? I brought a spare tea towel. And that was it. And everybody was chatting. And it just, because they were all just sat like this. So it just takes that person to go in, open the energy up, and then it starts to flow. And then you can step back. You don't even need to do anything. It'll just do it on its own.
Yeah, I've experienced that. I don't go in that well, not without alcohol, and I haven't drank in many years. But I could be that person then. Now I do it only to save people. Now I realize what it's like to be the one drowning and to not say anything and not to know how to start saying something. And just as I've gone through this process, I used to think it was only me that was small, poor me. But as you realize, it's like, no, everyone thinks that, and they need help. I know you have to go. Do you have to go soon in 3 minutes?
I can give you 13 minutes.
Okay, let's fit in one more clip of a more proper explanation.
Before we do this, can I just quickly answer Nick's question?
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Yep.
So, how do you recommend someone with with low confidence start untangling that ball of yarn? Very well put. So it just starts with. I'm going to sound really cliche. Self-love, really. It's looking at yourself as a whole person and saying, I mean, I've gone on and off. I'm not saying I've always felt great. When you have kids and stuff, your body changes and all the rest of it. It's looking at the bits of yourself that you like. That's what I would say about, oh, I've got nice eyes. And it's having that positive reinforcement. Mirror work, if it's a physical thing. So looking at yourself in the mirror every day, just take all your clothes off. It doesn't matter. And just go, I love you. Just look at yourself in non-judgment. There's other things you can do just by pushing yourself. So it's about pushing yourself into being uncomfortable slightly. So the small state is the comfortable state because you're shrinking back. and nobody's looking at you and you're self-contained. But when you start to push out and make yourself slightly uncomfortable, you will find 9 times out of 10 that people aren't actually that bad. Obviously, it's reading the room, but have small interactions with people, do new things. And as your confidence grows and you get out there more, you will start to unpick that. But also it's healing work, isn't it? Because that's where a lot of these issues come from, low self-esteem, childhood trauma. You could have had a really domineering parent that called you stupid or whatever. My dad used to, bless him, he used to go, "You're stupid," and he didn't obviously do it on purpose, but it sits in the subconscious. And then you've got this subconscious program, "You're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid." So all things like that, you know, people that pick on, you know, you could have been bullied. I was bullied, you know, it's kind of bullied, but you know, when I was in primary school, and it has a toll, and it really does wreck your self-worth. And it's just knowing that, I don't know, it's difficult to put into words. It's a process, basically. You're not just going to get up one day and go, "Yeah, I'm great, I'm fixed." So it's doing all these different parts that will slowly elevate your confidence, and then you become more whole, and you start to see yourself for who you are. But there's lots of different things you can do. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Diana.
Yeah, 100%. It's two things I can lay out clearly, and that's one is finding the parts of yourself you don't like, because that's why you don't have confidence. There's a lot about you don't like, because otherwise it wouldn't be so powerful. It's you, and then you think they're going to feel the same. They're going to know. Well, part of it's realizing they're not going to know. So, but you have to first look at your shame and unpack it. What can I change and make better? And what do I need to just make peace with? So it's either change and make better and make peace with, because you'll have both. And then the stuff that you want to change and make better, and this could be related to the same shame or just separate, but you want to give yourself goals. You want to give yourself things you know you're going to achieve. And even if it's things you're already doing, like doing the dishes or cooking or something, you want to be like, "Good job, me. Good job for doing this. You are a good person." And like, I know it sounds cheesy, but you just have to be that reassuring voice for yourself. Thumbs up you, because there's nobody else that's going to do it. Mom and dad cannot come back and do it for you if they're still alive or not. They can't come back and all of a sudden be like, "Oh, well, I love," because trust me, my mom was like, "Oh yeah, I'm so proud of you and stuff. Oh, I'm just so glad you've come and done all you've done and all this stuff." And it's like, yeah, what good is it for me now? You know, I needed that reassurance and love when I was a child. And she was a good mom. She tried, but they're projectors and they were busy and they were working, and there was 4 of us and they didn't like our fighting. There was a lot of reasons. So they actually like tried. So that means a lot. But at the end of the day, that's how easily children are traumatized, and like bullying and the smallest things can shake your confidence, because we have this perception that we think everybody is watching us and judging us. So the second somebody gives that a taste of evidence, like a smirk, a look, or God forbid they actually say something, which I was severely bullied in elementary school a lot. And then we had junior high, and that was just, oh my God. And then luckily by grade 9, things started to, there was a little bit in grade 9, but then it got better and better and better. And by grade 12, it was great. But that age of puberty, and oh my God, it was horrible. Like, I should have been homeschooled. That was just terrible. But you go through it, and lots of kids go through it, and especially in those age groups, which are so important for things to run well. But the only thing you can do about it is reprogram your own self-conscious or subconscious, so that you can be less self-conscious and more proud and aware of yourself in its truth. And that's just all knowing thyself is in that package, because then you just naturally become more confident, because you start to see yourself clearly. You start to see what's amazing, and you start to see the things that are bad are either being changed or not as bad as you thought, or people won't know. They don't know. It's not like you're still actively doing it. I'm just saying, if you have like things in your past, everybody has a past. Just get over it. Everybody's done bad things. That's okay. That's being human. Original sin, except we were brainwashed into it. If we had been raised in a proper society, we might not all have such sins in the closet. But the truth is we were brainwashed into sin. Drinking culture was placed on us and encouraged. There's so many, they wanted us to have all that shame, because shame and guilt is the number one, well, and lust are the number one loosh harvesting aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. With the shame, you banged it on the head there, because that's what it is. It's just you've ashamed that the bits within you, and that's what the bullies try and do, because they're taking your power, aren't they? And that's the pinnacle. It's self-empowerment. So how can you be more self-empowered? And that's by letting the shame go, your own self-judgment. Because if you're happy with who you are, and you see yourself as that divine God spark. I know it's difficult when we're going through the teenage angst phase, because we've all been those like gangly teenagers, you know, with sprouted breasts and pubic hair and like budiosa and whatever else, and we're like, oh, I'm socially awkward, I'm so emo, or whatever, you know, we've all been through those phases. You're figuring out who you are, but as an adult, you've been through all that. As an adult in my 30s, I'm going to be 39 in a week or so. So that's just to tell you how old I am now. You've got that kind of rich experience of life, and you start to see that other people's opinions don't really matter that much, and you start to see that your own opinion of yourself is the biggest thing. So it's just really self-acceptance. That is the major thing, and however you get there, it's going to look different for everybody, isn't it? We've all got our own unique traumas and things, but it's unpacking that and definitely letting go of that shame. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, good question there, Nick. And that'll lead us into our next parts video, because this will be the way to heal it. Because how do you heal it? If you just feels like you talking to you, it's not the same. Versus if you take for like the father or the mother aspect of you and have that speak to the wounded child aspect of you in parts work, that's where you're going to start to be able to actually get through your own subconscious and actually get through those layers, because you just feel like you matter more, because you feel like more people care about you, and they always were there. It's not like you're making it up. They were always there. Okay, here we go.
Parts of us that are vying for attention or protecting us or exiled at some point in our life.
Could be the part of us that believes that we have to hustle and work really hard to be worthy. You know, the part of us that believes that we can't take a break, because if we take a break, everything will fall apart. And these parts are really created from trauma, from family or culture or situations. And they're ways in which we have learned to cope with traumatic situations or situations in our life. And I love that parts work is really the truest sense of shadow work, where you're really taking these parts of you that you've neglected, that you've exiled, that you've abandoned, and you're reincorporating them within your true essence. You're loving them enough to bring them back to yourself. And it's really, really beautiful.
There's so many parts of us that are vying for attention or protecting us or
Yeah, we swapped again. We're doing the dance.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's funny.
I'm
But
going to
yeah, I
say
like.
thanks, Nick. Go on. Oh, go on.
No, I like what she said there. I just wanted to add something to what she's saying, and I like that she paired it with shadow work. But that we discover that there's parts of us that are positive too, like you were saying about the party. And I have a similar thing. I'm very Sagittarius, and I have my moon is Libra, so I have a very charismatic self as well. But I always like called it something else. I remember masking. I've been going through this masking thing, and it's like a lot of the masks were real. They just, is that me that cut out or her? I'll say a lot of the masks were real, but they were disconnected from, because they were just not honored as me. Did I cut out there, or did you?
No, I didn't see any cutting out.
Okay, well then I was saying that sentence weird because you were cut out. But I was just saying we disconnect from these positive selves because we don't want to give ourselves that much credit, because it feels so out of us, because we feel so low. We're like, when you integrate the good and the bad parts, you start to the ones that are really good, that feel like outside of you, like masking, you start to realize, no, that's okay, that's me, because you're bringing up the lower shadowy parts to match it. And then, because the whole point's equilibrium, to get us a form of stasis in how we live our life. Not ever perfect stasis, but like equilibrium, like a boat on the sea, because we're going to be moving. But if we keep it even, right, like we're not moving like this. If we bring it to this, we're just going to be doing this, because we are still going to have tippage. But when you take the high and the low and make them match, so your high doesn't need to be so out, and that comes to people channeling pretty major things. I think what they're going to end up realizing is that's you. That's your higher self. That's how powerful you are, and that's the power you can access. And that is you, whether or not it's another living entity right now as well, but it's also you. And then we're all one. So really it is. But, and that's why I really do like parts work. And it's actually kind of the majority of what I end up doing when I'm healing, because it's the only way I've ever actually found that puts the puzzle back together.
Yeah, I love that. You see, this is why I love talking to you and other people, you know, and looking at the process, because we all come at things from a slightly different angle. So I'm more shamanic based. so there's the different bits inside of you, which we're talking about, the different, and calling them entities, different aspects of the self, because I really do agree with that. And a lot of time when you are channeling, it's your higher versions of yourself. I'm not saying it's different emanations of what we are, basically, isn't it? It's a different flavour of the God self. And they've all got a different perspective and a different feel and a different wisdom that we're bringing through. But when we're talking about them embodied, and we're talking about the bits within us that we need to honour, I think we can have trauma within separate parts of ourselves. And I think this is what happens with, when you look at people that have really severe traumatic experiences, and we look at that, the MK Ultra and all that, where they traumatize people and they become fractured and they have these alters almost. And it's like the splitting of the self. And that's the damage. That's when you start to notice that there's real cracks in people, because they can't maintain a steady flow of who they are. So rather than the streams coming together and being woven in the spiral cohesively that you're letting flow through you in this experience, it's like almost jarred and jittery. And they become kind of like protective aspects. So you might have like a little girl that comes out at some point, if you've got this like split personality disorder or whatever, or obviously an alter, or you might have another bit that comes out that's just really gregarious, but might be really narcissistic because it's cut off from the other bits. It's like a fractured soul. And then leading back into like the shamanic work, so we look at soul pieces and soul retrieval. Whenever there's a trauma, we look at what we essentially believe happens as a shamanic practitioner. I'm not a shamanic practitioner, but like as a shamanic practitioner, they would say, oh, this has been left at a certain point when this trauma happened. And it can be from other lifetimes. When I've gone and done soul retrieval work, I've got bits of myself that's come back from other lifetimes that I've had to integrate, because your psyche and your whole soul complex isn't just in this lifetime now, because obviously we all know time is non-linear. So you're bringing the cohesive bits to you in the parts of you from other timelines, from concurrent timelines, to make the whole, the totality of you in a physical experience or in an emanation from the God self back into wholeness. And this is the thing, when you're in separation, you can see that. And even when you're in duality and you're experiencing this fracturing of the self, it's just another way for us to experience ourselves, seeing ourselves as a mirror. So there's a purpose to it. It's not saying that it's necessarily bad that it's happened, but it's all giving us knowledge and experience, and it's how we handle that and how we move through it. And spinning back, can we make it positive? Can we make it work for us? How are we going to heal it? What we're going to take away from that?
Yeah, 100%. And something you said there holds a deep egg in it, like a really good key. And that's that there's no time and space, which we know, but like you need to know this over and over and over again to the depths of your soul, because it matters so deeply. And what you're saying there about streams and about making the self whole. So there's no excuse for feeling like, okay, so if you're not whole now, okay, sure. But as for the power of the all and how this whole system works, you can stream out. You're never going to be completely, nothing's ever shut off completely. There's nothing within you that doesn't give you full access to be complete. So like your wires might be tangled and you might feel incomplete because they are so tangled. And if there's parts of you that you really want to get rid of, then that's what alchemy is. People didn't want lead, they wanted gold. That's what alchemy is. You are changing one part into another. So you can just do this naturally. You can just do this naturally by ascension. That's what it does. But if you have specific things that you really need in your life, then you bring in kind of a manifestation, the way we manifest, and you aim towards it. So let's say you want to be more funny. You want to be more sexy. You want to be more confident. You want to be more just embodied. Whatever it is that you feel like you don't have now, that's where you can like make a practice and be like, what is it I want? Where do I think that matches inside myself? Like, where is that inside myself? Even if it's detrimental, it could even be the polar opposite. I don't talk to others. I don't put myself out there. I don't and where can we take that and start to find places that we are comfortable with to shift, all while still holding that aim of that more let's say you want to start doing TED Talks. Okay, so start walking, and I don't mean fake it. This isn't about faking it till you make it. It's finding every little baby step you could make authentically, to aim at it, to call it in energetically, and then to live it out, embody it, and enact it, because those are all the things that make a stream. Not like make, but also attach you to it. Because in the anthropic principle, everything is in the now, meaning you're making it, and it always existed for all time, because that's how this beautiful system works. This is why we really are wizards that can literally accomplish anything we want. We just have to fully believe it, and that's a huge issue. But I think you can believe that you can make yourself more confident. That's not exactly, magicking up a mansion out of nowhere. That's something within you that you can absolutely do. And that's the base level to start, because once you take yourself from feeling in those lower victim places and move yourself into a space of feeling like an actual worthy adult, of feeling, because I know a lot of millennials feel like they're not even adults. My own mother, because that's one of the signs I knew she was a starseed, she died at 59 going, I still feel like a child. She never matured past 25. And she said that all the time. She's like, I don't think I aged a day past 25. And she didn't mean it in vain. She didn't mean it as vanity. She was actually calling out going, I'm a child living an adult life and I don't know what to do. And she did a great job. She actually did a great job. And she's not the only one in that situation. I myself was in that situation. But then because of her and because of what I know, I was like, okay, well, I better do something about this. And then, so that was my thing. It was like, what would an adult me do? And then, so that was my thing, and it worked. And it didn't even take that long, because once you decide something, especially in this very fast moving, energetic ascension time, just simply deciding it with your true and complete self is actually usually all you need to do.
Absolutely. I've just got a few points and I'm gonna have to hop off. But yeah, I loved all of that. That was great. What I would also say is, it isn't even just like you're alchemizing everything. So sometimes what we need to recognize is we've been told by society, we've been told by people, or there's these trauma loops, or there's these stories we told ourselves like this part of us isn't good. But actually the soul is like, do you know what? I really like to be quiet and I like to read. I like to sit in the corner and read. Or I don't know, I really want to paint things. Whatever. You could have the weirdest thing. You could want to sit in your kitchen completely naked and paint pot dolls, whatever you want, and it fills you up. You feel it inside, because this is the thing with purpose. You go, if you're trying to find your purpose, and a lot of time when we're unhappy, it's because we're not living our purpose, basically, because we're in denial of the self and all these parts that are within us. So reconciling that and knowing what we want to do. So it's removing the judgments and saying, do you know what? Societally, I'm going to be judged as a bit of a weirdo, but fuck it, because this makes me happy. It's not hurting anybody. This is who I am. This is my soul mission. And that's the real alchemy, because you're owning yourself. You're not rejecting yourself. And then you can turn that into gold, because you're creative, you're in flow, you're repurposing something that was once a shame into something that could be your greatest strength. You could be an entrepreneur then with pot dolls. Nobody has to give a shit if you sat in your kitchen painting them naked. Do you know what I mean? Whatever fills you up, no judgment from me. That's the only thing that I would say there.
Yeah, 100%. And I completely agree, because just express yourself in your full totality. And any starseed is probably naturally going to want to do that for good things. And if you're having satanic urges, I mean, that's a separate problem. We're not the channel for you. You probably have an entity. I would say get an exorcism, because most people, once you start ascending and you get it, especially if you stop drinking and things like that, you're only going to want to do good things. It just starts to grow, and it never stops. So I completely agree with everything you said. I super honor your time, Sam. We're going to close the whole show down because the sun is very painful and I'm wearing black. But
Well, it's been great. Thank you for having me on. I've loved it. And thank you to everybody that's commented. Thank you, Nick. A pleasure as always.
Yes, thank you very much for being here, Nick, and everybody that was here. We appreciate you all, and thank you so much, Samantha. I love having you as my co-host. Hopefully we'll do it again soon. And thank you, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you all again soon. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Round and round the world we spin. Who knows where we're going? Up into ascension we sail. Pop goes the matrix. Here we stand and here we rise. God resides inside you. You are God, and everything is pop goes the matrix. Children, you are deeply loved. Children, you are special. Never feel alone inside. God lives inside you.